And speaking of our political and cultural divides, a clash that erupted at the state level this week went viral and captured some of the national debate around these issues. John Yang has the details.
Amna, this all began late last week when Michigan State Senator Lana Theis, a Republican, delivered an opening invocation that said children are under attack. 3 Democrats walked out of the chamber, including Senator Mallory McMorrow. On Monday, Theis sent out a fundraising email that included the unfounded allegation that McMorrow wants to groom and sexualize kindergartners. Theis also attacked her for what Theis called race-based education. The next day, McMorrow took to the Senate floor to fire back.
So who am I? I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
Videos of the speech were posted on social media and have gotten millions of views. Senator McMorrow joins me now from her home in suburban Detroit. Senator McMorrow, thanks for joining us. I want to break down a couple of things you said in your speech. You said that you represent what you called the biggest threat to the hollow, hateful scheme that the Republicans are carrying out. Help us understand, what do you mean by those two phrases?
So these attacks that we've seen about grooming or marginalization, they impact the LGBTQ community, the Black community. It's really targeting marginalized groups, marginalized people. And what I meant when I said I'm the biggest threat is I'm not a member of a marginalized community. I am a straight, white, married, Christian, suburban mom. And if more people like me who are not in a minority group, who are not under attack, stand up and call it out as hateful, hollow nonsense, then we take away its power.
And talk a little bit about how you decided to respond and how you decided to respond in this way.
So I sat on it for a day. I read about the fundraising email in the morning and then really took the day to put all of my thoughts together. And you know, initially I was just disgusted and you want to kind of hit back in the moment, but I just thought about if I felt as horrible as I did on Monday, how much worse it must feel every single day if you are the parent of a trans child, if you are a member of the gay community who gets called a pedophile or a groomer every single day. And I realized that we have to do a lot more.
Why do you think the Republicans are doing this sort of thing in general, and why do you think they're singling you out?
Effective.
It's pulling this language from QAnon conspiracies. It started in the darkest corners of the internet, this idea that the government is run by a Satanist cabal of pedophiles. And we saw what happens when a gunman opened fire at a pizza parlor in DC, believing that there were pedophiles there trapping children in the basement based on this lie. But now this conspiracy is being pulled out in the open, and it is being used by one of our country's 2 major political parties as the official policy, the official attack, and we have to stop it. So why me specifically is yes, I'm one of the people who walked out of this speech, but also I'm not particularly shy about expressing my opinions about these things. I host a live stream every week, and I talked about why I walked out of the invocation. So I think it was a signal to anybody like me who dares to stand up with the marginalized community that we're going to paint you as one of them. You're no longer one of us. You are one of them. You are, something dark and dirty and evil, and we have to take our identities back.
You talked about the incident here in Washington, D.C., where someone did show up with a rifle at a place where conspiracy theorists had these unfounded allegations that there was a child trafficking ring going on, a pizza restaurant in Washington. Are you concerned at being singled out in this way? Are you concerned about your safety?
You have to be. And I think that was one of the most hurtful things about the email that went out about me is clearly there was no thought from Senator Tice as to what the consequences might be. And that was really scary for my friends and my family. But again, I am generally okay. I'm doing well. My family is happy and healthy. We have resources that I know a lot of others don't. And there's a sense of privilege to be able to use my position for people who are regularly under attack, who don't have the protections that I do, who are in real danger if people like me don't take a little bit of that risk and take the hit and try to push back.
Since you have gotten a lot of attention for your pushback, Senator Tice tweeted, while Senator McMorrow is on MSNBC preaching to her choir, I'll keep my focus on Michigan parents who Democrats are seeking to undermine as the primary decision makers in the education of their children. What do you say to that?
It's just sad. It's sad and pathetic that she's doubling down when other parents, I am a parent, saying that you do not speak for all parents. And I know that there are thousands, if not millions, just like me, who don't want our kids to grow up in a place that is hateful and malicious towards anybody who is different.
Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow, thank you very much.
Love you,
Thank
dear. Thank you. Taking a stand.
From culture clashes in Florida between the Republican Party and Disney to revelations in Washington about actions of lawmakers around January 6th, it has been a busy week in politics across the country. To navigate all of it, we turn to the analysis of Brooks and Capehart. That is New York Times columnist David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart, columnist for the Washington Post. Welcome to you both.
Yeah,
Good to see
Jonathan
you.
nailed it tonight.
I want to pick up where Michigan State Senator McMorrow left off. And Jonathan, the first question goes to you. I just want to get your reaction on the accusations she faced and the way that she responded to it, because it's not something we see often. What do you make of it?
Right. I'm going to ignore the accusation because it's a lie. And it's a lie that far-right Republicans have been hurling at Democrats to cow them. What I loved about Senator McMorrow's response was how forceful it was, how she refused to cede ground, moral ground, to people who were seeking to attack her. I loved it. I'm glad you played that clip of her saying, I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom. And I loved what she said to John Yang when she said, we have to take our identities back. For far too long, people on the left, elected Democrats, have, like I just said before, cowed in the face of these attacks instead of standing up in their own, with their spines and standing on their own 2 feet and in their values and in their morals and saying, do not speak for me. Do not speak. I'm a Christian. Don't tell me that I'm not. I'm a mom. Don't tell me that I'm not. Don't tell me I don't care about my children or other children.
Yeah,
I want
you.
more McMorrows out there. And she's not the only one. Last week, Ian Mackey, a Michigan State representative, went at a colleague who proposed anti-LGBT legislation and said to him directly, it's because of people like you that friends of mine decided to leave the state because they didn't feel safe. And so if we had more Mackeys, if we had more McMorrows who were willing to be the voice of LGBTQ people, African Americans, Asian Americans, anyone who is not the straight, white, cisgender, usually male person who is attacking them, we could move this country out of this horrible conversation that we're having now.
We talk about all of this under this broad umbrella, we call it culture wars, right? And it captures a lot of different issues, including the ones Jonathan just talked about, including the one the state senator talked, including the ones Jonathan just talked about, including the one the state senator talked about. But David, specifically, she's not wrong. A lot of those ideas are very QAnon, dangerous conspiracy theory related. That used to be fringe. We still call it fringe. Is it fringe still?
I wouldn't say QAnon is fringe anymore. There's tens of millions of people who are somewhat affiliated with QAnon, so I wouldn't say it's fringe. I'd say there's two things happening here. One is the crazies, Pizzagate, grooming, all that stuff. That we can't say it's fringe, but I can at least say it's crazy. It's lunatic. And it's not only lunatic, it's cruelly lunatic, and it's barbarically lunatic. So that's happening, and she was responding. I found her a very compelling human being. Then there was the culture, and I'm not going to call it a cultural difference. If you look at the World Value Survey, which surveys values all around the world, what you find is that people in the English-speaking world and in Protestant Europe, our values are shifting, and the rest of the world's values are very different. And the same thing is happening in this country, that some of the values where people are, I live urban, educated, shifting. A lot of the rest of the country, not shifting. And so we're just seeing widening chasms on values on a whole range of issues. When to teach sexuality to school kids. And somehow we have to have that fight without it being dominated by the crazies. And frankly, without it being dominated by the gotcha screaming moments we've seen at school boards and all that. And we don't even have that fight. We need to have a discussion about this stuff. And right now it's being submerged because it's been hyper-politicized. And when you turn a discussion about difficult issues into partisan politics, you've destroyed it.
But when all of this is unfolding in a political arena, right, and you have even members, take it up to the national level, where you have members of Congress who sometimes say these similar things, and it's not immediately rebuked by leadership, doesn't that perpetuate it?
Right, but they're not going to rebuke it because it's popular. And so, Donald Trump was not a policy president. He was a culture war president. It was continual soap operas where he would identify some identity issue, and then he would own the libs. And so that's what our politics has become. It's not, do we disagree with this or that tax rate? It's our identity has to triumph over their identity. And so that we're in this, doom spiral of values fought as political soap opera.
There's also this ongoing sort of dehumanizing of the political opponent, right, which we have seen in studies, experts say, can lead to more violence. And that's part of the argument behind the examination of Marjorie Taylor Greene's role, what she said, how it led, whether or not it led to the violence on January 6th. I saw you were watching, I saw you tweeting about it. You were watching her in that courtroom today. Clearly, it's not really going to have an impact. Experts seem to say she's not going to be taken off the ballot. So what was that really about? What did you learn by watching?
Well, one, I'm glad someone is trying to hold her accountable. Because if Kevin McCarthy isn't going to do it, hold her accountable the way he held Liz Cheney accountable by stripping her of her leadership post, then someone needs to. I found her demeanor on the stand to be insulting, as if she knew she was going to get away with saying, I don't recall, even after being shown video of her saying the words she said she couldn't recall. Yeah, she might not be taken off the ballot, but again, at least someone is trying to hold her accountable, because no one in elected leadership seems to care.
Is that accountability going to happen?
No.
Will it have an impact?
No, I've never interviewed her, but I know people who know her, and they say she knows exactly what she's doing. She's a sophisticated soap opera player, playing the game of getting attention and getting on TV, which generates money for her. Attacking her generates money for her opponents. And so this is not legislative politics the way it used to be practiced, where you run for office to do something. This is you run for office to manipulate attention, and she's a master at it.
Manipulate attention, and I completely get that, and I understand the theater of it all, but at some point, someone is going to have to recognize that the rhetoric of Marjorie Taylor Greene, the rhetoric of that Lana Tice, and these other Republicans who are using LGBTQ kids and African Americans as props in their play, they have consequences. We're talking, when McMorrow speaks, when Mackey speaks, when other folks speak out against this stuff, they are fighting for the dignity of real people. This isn't just, I take it, a moral play or just, political theater. People's lives are at stake, and people's lives are being played with by people who don't have those worries, don't have to worry, aren't marginalized, don't have to worry about their safety simply because of the way they look or the way they identify. And that is the problem I have with what's happening right now. And to know that Marjorie Taylor Greene actually is sophisticated and knows exactly what she's doing makes it even more insulting. She's playing with all of our lives.
We have seen Leader